Hello, parents, guardians, grandparents, and anyone who's interested in learning about childhood pain and how to parent better. I am so pleased to offer this workshop today called Heal Your Childhood Parent Better for the School of Humankind. I'm very, very excited. Okay, and I want to introduce myself first off. My name is Ann Alvarez. I am a parent coach, a school counselor, and the mother of two. I have been a school counselor for over 15 years, and I have raised a 24-year-old now and a 14-year-old. So I'm currently going through the teenage years, which are very challenging years of parenting. As well as I've been working with parents on their parenting journey. So I'm super, super excited to be here today and to share what I've learned about childhood pain and how we can overcome it to become better parents. First, I want to tell you about what childhood pain is. Then I want to explain to you how you know if it's showing up in your parenting, your childhood pain. And then I want to offer you some suggestions on ways to heal it, to become aware, and to be more relational with your children. All right, so let's start off with the first question. What is childhood pain? Okay, childhood pain is any hurt. Something happened in your childhood that was painful, that hurt you, and that you've carried that hurt into your adult life. That is childhood pain. Now, I'll give you lots of examples of what childhood pain is. And the reason I use pain is because many of us have varying degrees of childhood pain. It might not be trauma, it might not be abuse, but we may carry still things from our childhood into our adult lives. Okay, so it could be neglect. Maybe your parents were working a lot and they were not home much. And so you didn't have adults around to give you parenting. Perhaps your parents were really controlling, telling you what to do all the time, uh, telling you what to wear, not listening to your opinions. Okay, that's a form of childhood pain. Perhaps your parents were overly protective and they didn't allow you to do things, to have freedoms to grow up. Um, Perhaps you were parentified. Now, parentified means that you were given an adult role when you were a kid. So you could have been the oldest of five children, and you had to look after your siblings because your parents were working. Or perhaps your parents were struggling in their mental health or physical health, and you had to take care of them. Okay, that is also a form of childhood pain. Perhaps your parents were overly critical. They were always judging you, saying you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't wear this. Um, you shouldn't hang out with those friends. Okay, so maybe they were just overly critical of you. Or perhaps your parents expected so much from you. They wanted you to have straight A's in school. And if you got less than an A, then they didn't they weren't impressed with you. Okay? They gave you the messaging that that's not good enough, right? And these are all forms of childhood pain. We experience them in our childhood, and then we gave ourselves a message from those experiences as kids. All right, so I'll give you examples. But also, there is abuse as well, physical, emotional, sexual abuse that you might have suffered, or there could be trauma. A traumatic event happened in your life, maybe the death of a parent, maybe the death of a grandparent, that you were not able to process the grief and you still carry that pain as an adult. All right. So these are all different forms of childhood pain, and they show up in our adult lives. unless we heal them, we get healing for them. We recognize that they're showing up or that we're still carrying that pain from our childhood. Now, the reason I know so much about this too is because I came from childhood pain. My parents were very controlling, and I did have abuse. I was abused by my father. My mom and dad had a very volatile relationship. There was a lot of yelling in the home. I was scared of my parents, my brother and I. And my brother was physically abused as well. So there is quite extreme kind of childhood pain. Um, and because they were so controlling, I never felt like I had a voice, right? The messaging that we get as kids, we carry into our adult lives. So because my parents always told me what to do, when I became an adult, I didn't feel like I had a voice. I didn't feel like my opinion mattered. Nobody cared what my opinion was. It affected my self-esteem as a young woman. And also it stopped me from voicing my opinion. And it wasn't until years later that I realized that I have a voice, that my opinion matters, and that I can speak. But I carried that pain for many, many years until I recognized that it was coming from the messaging that I gave myself because of my childhood experience. So I know this because I'm a school counselor and I hear teenagers tell me their story. And it's been like over 15 years where I've had, hundreds, maybe thousands of conversations with teenagers. And what happens with kids is that something happened to them, like their parents treated them a certain way. And kids do not blame their parents. They never blame their parents. If they were hit or they were punished, the message wasn't, my parents are bad. The message that they gave themselves was, I'm bad. I must be bad. I must be no good. I'm not worthy. And that is what happens with kids. We experience something and we believe it's our fault, even if our parents have abused us, because we don't know. We love our parents so much, uh, and we believe whatever they are doing is for our good, and that we must be the bad ones if we are experiencing abuse, neglect, um, uh, you know, um, controlling behavior or critical behavior, right? So that's why it's so important to understand what was the message that you gave yourself when you were a kid, uh, because you gave yourself a message. Mine was, I don't have a voice. Mine was, I need to be controlled. And the reason I'm so passionate about it is because as a young woman, I attracted uh, unhealthy relationships because of my childhood experience. I attracted people who were controlling because I was controlled as a kid. So we live our childhood experience in our adult lives unless we become aware and say, I don't want that. That is not what I want for my life. Right? That's why it's so important to recognize it. So those are all different forms of childhood pain that we could be carrying into our adult lives. And this childhood pain will show up in our parenting because we will get triggered because of what happened to us as kids. How do you know that you are your childhood pain is still being carried into your adult life, and that it is showing up in your parenting? Well, you know because you are perhaps, sorry, fearful and overprotective with your children, or you have difficulty enjoying your children, you have difficulty relaxing, you're not at peace. or if you react really strongly about something that is not something to react so strongly about. Maybe you're always telling your child what to do. Maybe you're always directing your children. Maybe you're trying to control your children. That is coming from a place of childhood pain. Maybe you get angry really easily. Okay, again, that is coming from your childhood. You might be overly sensitive and you might personalize your child's behavior or their words when they tell you something. Oh, why don't they like me? Why is my child not listening to me? Why is my child being so disrespectful? These are all telling signs of hearing your childhood pain in your parenting. And maybe you don't want to say no to your kids. Maybe you have no boundaries with them, or you feel hopeless as a parent, or you feel unloved by your child, or maybe you get jealous when your child shows affection to somebody else, but not to you. Maybe you don't feel like your children appreciate you, or you feel unworthy in your parenting role or as a person, because our self-esteem is affected by our childhood experiences. So these are some telling signs. If you are feeling any of these, or you notice that you are any of these things, any of these behaviors or thoughts are happening, then you know that you're still carrying childhood pain. Okay, so if you're still carrying it, how do you heal that? All right, this is like the big question, right? The healing journey of childhood. And many of us have had to heal it, or we're still carrying the wounds, and we know that we need healing. Okay, so the first step to healing your childhood is to tell your story to someone safe. For me, I told my story for the very first time to a counselor, and I was in my late 20s. And the reason I told my story was because as a young woman, I was still being very controlled by my mom. My mom was pretty toxic with me, and the relationship with my mom was really affecting me, affecting my mental health. I didn't know how to have boundaries with her. I knew that I didn't want to be controlled anymore because I'm an adult, but I was still allowing her words and her actions to affect me. And so I went and talked to a counselor and I just unleashed my story. I let it all out. I said, this is what happened to me. I cried. I cried a lot when I was telling my story. And my question to the counselor was, how come my parents didn't know that they were hurting us, that they were damaging us? Why didn't they know? That was my big, big question. And the counselor said to me, I never forget, she said, just be happy that you're aware. And that was a clue to me that awareness is so key to change. Because if you're not aware of what you're doing to your children that is causing damage, then you cannot change. So our job as parents is to become aware of what we're doing that is affecting our children. Okay. That is our primary job, is to understand that those parents that are coming from childhood pain, you have to be aware of how it's showing up and what is happening, how it's affecting your children. Okay. So first step, tell your story to someone safe. If you don't feel comfortable verbalizing the story, then you can always journal the story. That is a first step. The reason we tell our story is because we have to get it out of us. It will continue to live inside of you until you get it out. So you have to unleash the story, either in a written form, through journaling, or verbalizing it to someone who is safe. It could be a spouse, it could be a sister, it could be a close friend, but it has to be someone that you feel safe with, that you know is going to let you cry and talk about it, right? And get it out and feel empathy for you. Because that's what we need, is we need someone to hear our story and understand and empathize with us. And then once our story is released, then we can begin the steps of healing, right? And I say, because we have this internal dialogue as children, we need to remember what was the messaging, what was the internal dialogue that you gave yourself through that experience that you had as a kid. Maybe you said to yourself that you're bad, you're not worthy, your opinion doesn't matter. Maybe you said you're not smart, you're not beautiful. Whatever the message was, you need to figure it out. What was the message that you gave yourself when you were that kid experiencing the pain that you experienced? The messaging is super important, because once we know what message we gave ourselves, then we can begin to change the way we view ourselves as a kid in our adult lives. We can change the messaging and rewrite the story when we know what we told ourselves as kids. Okay, so you're going to replace it, the thought, right? I'm not worthy. I am worthy. I'm worthy of being loved. I didn't do anything wrong. I was a child. I should have been loved. I was a child. I should have been allowed to have a childhood and not been parentified. Um, I was a child. I didn't know. It wasn't because I was bad. It was because I didn't know, right? And then we can also look at our own parents. Like, honestly, part of the healing journey is forgiveness. And I know it's hard to get there, but forgiveness is so key, because if we carry on to bitterness, hatred, resentfulness, um, that takes up space in our lives, in our adult lives. It takes up the space that we could really, truly love our own children. And we forgive for ourselves, not for our parents. We forgive because we want to release it. We want to release those feelings of resentment and anger. Um, so we don't carry it into our parenting life with our own children. All right. So I know it is a process. For me, I had a dialogue with my mom when I was again in my late 20s. Uh, she came out to visit me, and I decided I was gonna confront her, but I wanted to do it in a very gentle, kind, loving way. I didn't want to hurt her. Like, this is the thing with kids, is we love our parents so much, we don't want to hurt them. And our kids are the same. They love us so much, they don't want to hurt us. And it was the same with my mom. So this is the way I worded it so it wouldn't hurt her. I said, Mom, I want you to understand what my childhood was for me. And I'm not blaming you. I just want you to know from my perspective how my childhood was. And it was really the first time that I gave it a voice to my mother. And surprisingly, she received my words quite well. But she also was trying to defend herself, right? Like, I was working, I was stressed, and all of these things, right? And I'm going to tell you, parents, we go through stress, we go through things in our lives, but it is our job to give our children what they need. It doesn't matter what we're going through. What matters is we're giving our children what they need, and we cannot buy into excuses of not giving them what they need because it's our job. It's our job to give them love. It's our job to give them care. It's our job to give them attention. It's our job as parents. So we cannot buy into excuses no matter what your circumstance is, right? You make a way to give your kids what they need so that they can grow up healthy, confident, and emotionally sound, emotionally stable. Okay, so that is part of the healing journey. Okay, and we know that we have to be aware. We know that when we have our triggers, we need to stop. And we need to say, okay, main trigger right now, my kid is yelling, and it's very upsetting to me. I'm going to take a moment for myself to figure this all out. And then you can take a break. You can say, I need a break right now. I need to go to the bathroom. I need to calm down. It's okay to tell our kids that, right? This is good modeling for them, actually. And then once you're calm, you can say, okay, why am I getting so upset? Why is that making me so upset? This is where you're becoming aware. When did I feel this way? Did I feel this way in my childhood? Was there a lot of yelling going on in my childhood? And now when I hear yelling and screaming and crying, it upsets me, right? This is the awareness and understanding how our childhood pain is being carried into our adult lives so that we're not responding with the pain. We're going to heal it. We're going to be like, okay, hold on and tell another story. Okay. This is my child. This is not me. My child needs me. It's not about me. It's about my child is in distress and needs me. Okay. I need to calm down so I can give my child what he or she needs because they're in crisis right now. All right. So I hope that makes sense because that's really what we have to do is we have to like slow everything down. Take a pause. It's okay to take a pause and then ask yourself, why? Why am I reacting this way? Why am I feeling this way, like tense, upset? Where is that coming from? When in my childhood did I feel this way? And then that is where the answer will lie with that kind of understanding and awareness of what's triggering us because our triggers are coming from our pain. And so once we recognize that, then we can have a different dialogue about it. Understand, oh yeah, that's coming from my childhood. Okay, it's not about my child. It's about the pain that I experienced. And I'm an adult now. I don't need to carry that pain anymore. I can let it go. Because I'm not that 7-year-old that didn't feel worthy. I'm an adult. I'm worthy. I'm strong and I can handle this. This is the messaging. This is like rewriting the dialogue that we gave ourselves as children so that we can make impact in our lives and in our children's lives. Okay, parents, I hope that was helpful. And I'm so happy to take any questions that you have. So I will stop the video now and I'm going to take any questions that you might have about what I've just shared with you today about childhood pain and parenting better. Thank you so much.